Right, so the general rule about when to start fasting and when to end fasting is relatively straightforward. Fast when you see it and stop fasting when you see it. It refers obviously to the halal, the new moon crescent. And one of the hadiths that is used to support this is the one I've got is from Sahih Muslim, and he says a moon can be of 29 days. So if you sight the moon, begin the fast, and if you sight it, break the fast. If the sky is not clear, complete the days. Now you see in that audio clip, Umar was saying the hadith is very clear. You sight the halal with the naked eye. However, there are a number of variations on this hadith. So depending on your line of thinking, you can choose the appropriate hadith, and they're not all identical. Presumably, they all refer to the same incident. So you'll see that the wording is slightly different. I can do that, yeah. And there's this hadith. This is from the one I done, and then some of them will say you complete 30 days, and some of them say this guy is obscured. Father Kullahu. But the point here is that things is not as clear as some people might lead you to believe, and there are not many people who have the knowledge or the ability to be able to analyze these hadiths. Even those people who go under the name of scholars, there's very few who can do that. And this is not just being a hadith expert. You have to be a jurist to be able to derive at appropriate decisions, and there's very few of them. So in Islamic month is 29 days. If the moon is sighted on the evening of the 29th, this will signal the beginning of the new month. If the moon is not sighted on the evening of the 29th of the lunar month, one more day is added to the current month, making it 30 days, after which the new month commences. Everybody agrees on that. None of the scholars or the fuqaha disagree on that. However, if it's that simple, how come we end up with different days for start of Ramadan and end of Ramadan? So there are some underlying bases for these differences. So I've divided it up into three main topics, although you could divide it up into more. First one would be, what does the word see mean when you say you start fasting, when you see the halal? What does the word see mean? Secondly, global sighting versus local sighting. And thirdly, whether it is permissible to use scientific data. And if you do decide that it is permissible to use it, what role will it play in helping you to decide whether to start fasting or not? So when I looked into this a few years ago, I found that there were at least 9 legal opinions or formulae which had been put forward just in the UK to determine the start of Ramadan and Shawwal. Now all these legal opinions and formulae were based on Sharia principles, as well as obviously human reasoning. So if we look at the first of these issues, seeing the halal, what does that mean? Well, so this is just to show you that this issue of moon sighting is not limited to the UK. This is a presentation from Canada. So they have similar problems in Canada and US. Maybe in other countries as well, but we tend to know more about these because they speak English as well. And they're at a similar latitude to ourselves. So there's a dua. When you sight the hilal, there's a dua which would suggest or lend evidence to the fact that you should try and sight the moon physically. So we've got different groups on what they think seeing the halal actually means. There's one group who feels that actual physical sighting is necessary, and that is what determines the start and end of Ramadan. And they are also of the opinion that use of scientific data is against Sharia. It's haram to use scientific data, astronomical data. Then within that, you need to decide whether the physical sighting needs to be with the eye or whether you can sight the hilal with the use of optical aids. Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahmatullah alayhi, was of the opinion that naked sighting with the naked eye is what should be done, because he felt that if you started using optical aids, that would increase the takalluf on the ummah, it would put an extra burden on them. He permitted the use of spectacles because that is correcting a defect to make you normal eyesight, but not the use of binoculars and telescopes. So then we have another group which believes that scientific data is what should be used. Naked eye sighting is not necessary. Purely using scientific data to know that the hilal is there to be seen is enough. So they have their evidences as well. They said the word ra'aytu does not necessarily mean to see, and they use examples from the Quran. Ara'ayta alladhi yukaddibu bid-din doesn't mean to say have you actually seen, so they interpret to see as to know, to be aware of. Then there's a third group. This group believes that actual physical sighting of the halal with the naked eye is necessary. However, scientific data can be used as supporting evidence. So what that means is scientific data does not replace actual sighting, but it can negate a sighting. So if scientific data states that the moon's not there to be seen, and somebody says they've seen the moon, the first group will accept it. Yeah? The second group will not accept it because the scientific data says the moon's not there to be seen. This group will also reject it. And you've got scholars on both sides of the arguments. These are sort of two scholars in the US. You've got Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, who's of the view that one should try to see the moon, New Hilal Crescent, with the naked eye. And Zulfikar Ali Shah, who's written quite a lot on this, he's of the opinion that scientific data is sufficient. Naked eye sighting is not necessary. Right. Then we've got global sighting versus local sighting. So these are two well-known traditional fiqh standings. Global moon sighting would be ittihad al-matali, which means one horizon, and ikhtilaf al-matali, which would mean many horizons. So if we look at those people who believe in global sighting, ittihad al-matali, so their view is that a sighting of the hilal in one locality would be accepted by all the Muslims all over the world. And now this fiqh position was taken up by some scholars in early parts of Islam. And this would mean, if we were to adopt this position, then the start of Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha would all be on the same day, all over the world. So this assumes that there is one horizon, the earth is flat, and if that was so, then all the prayer times would be at the same time. Yeah? This position has never been implemented in the Muslim world over the past 14 centuries. Right? This was to show you, I see, okay. Now if you remember on the 29th of August in 2011, on Monday, which also happened to be the 29th of Ramadan, the moon, the hilal, was first sighted in South America. Now, when it was sighted in South America, the time, and this is, I think we've got the name of the gentleman who saw it, yes, Mr. Fuad Musa. He viewed it with his sheikh, and they saw the halal, and the time they saw it was 1955. At that time, it was almost midnight at GMT. So that by the time we would have got those news, it would have been after midnight, maybe 1 o'clock. So it would be, and in Europe, further on in Germany and so on, the time would be even later. So Ittihad al-Matali, it would be very impractical to implement. So if somebody says, yes, I have seen the halal in Southern America, are these people who are sleeping then suddenly to be informed, oh, by the way, it's Eid tomorrow, or you're fasting tomorrow? So from a practical point of view, the concept of Ittihad al-Matali would be very difficult to implement. Not only that, at any particular time, there are 2 dates on Earth due to the international date line. So although it sounds good, everybody should do Eid at the same day. From a practical point of view, people who say that really need to think a little bit deeper to think, well, how would that be implemented practically? Are you going to wake people up at 2 or 3 in the morning and say, oh, by the way, you know you're supposed to be fasting? No, and you might have missed your sehri by that time, because it was at 1 o'clock. Right, local cycling. So this is Ikhtilaf al-Matali. So this fiqh stand states that each locality follows its own hilal sighting. So there are what we call multiple horizons. And this is what has been practiced by the Muslims over the centuries. And this is what most of the scholars favor, contemporary Muslim scholars favor. And from a fiqh perspective, this is probably the strongest position. However, in the UK, it's difficult for us to practice that because of the geographical location of the UK. Because were we to practice that, during the winter, there will be several months when you would not be able to see the moon due to atmospheric conditions. So if you don't see the moon, then you would complete 30 days. Then the next month, it would be the same. You'd complete your 30 days again. Next month, same again. You've completed your 30 days. Then you completed 30 days again. So the next month, you realize, well, hold on, that month is now going to end up being like 26 or 27 days, and that would not be accepted in Sharia. In Sharia, a lunar month is either 29 or 30 days. So because of the geographical location of the UK, it becomes necessary for us to follow the moon sighting of another country. The question then arises, which country hilal do we follow? Morocco is a logical choice. People have discussed whether it should be Islamic or non-Islamic country, which is interesting because we're a non-Islamic country ourselves. So again, if you think about that, you would also need to decide what a country is. So if Muslims in England say they've cited the halal, would the people in Scotland say, sorry, you're a non-Islamic country, we can't accept yours, or vice versa? Or if scholars from this country, all those who believe it should be an Islamic country, all went to France, and they all rang us and say, all 50 of us, 100 of us have seen the halal in France, would have to say, no, according to your own decision, we're rejecting it, because you're in a non-Islamic country. But the scholars have decided that it should be an Islamic country. Okay, so this was to show you again, what is this? Right, another position which has come around relatively recently is Saudi-only halal sighting, or Saudi-only halal announcements. In the past, this was unknown. So we had the two traditional fiqh positions, Ittihad al-Matali, Ikhtilaf al-Matali. This new position, the people who follow this go under the cover of Ittihad al-Matali. So they're doing global sighting. However, in practice, it turns out to be Saudi-only Hilal sighting. So you've got people on different slides. So here's a presentation done by one organization. Why do we follow Saudi for moon sighting? Then here's a fatwa presentation which states that following Saudi Arabia is an open munkar and wrong by a big scholar. So as I said earlier, there is no, strong Sharia basis for following only Saudi moon sighting. The Saudi Hilal sightings often defy science. And if you do follow Saudi Hilal sightings, then there's no need for you to do local Hilal sightings. Certainly not in the UK, because you'll find the Saudi Hilal sightings do not lag Hilal sightings from anywhere else. They always tend to be ahead of everyone else. However, having said that, it is very convenient because they're ahead and it's well publicized on TV. People can ring you back from Saudi Arabia doing their Umrah saying, no, Hilal been seen. So it is very convenient because it is so well publicized. And it's very timely because Saudi Arabia is 3 hours ahead of GMT, which means they're always 2 or 3 hours ahead of UK. So that means we get news of when Ramadan's starting and when it's ending in good time. Okay, now it's necessary to try and understand the Qura calendar. The Qura calendar is a pre-calculated calendar produced by the Institute of Astronomical and Geophysical Research of the King Abdulaziz of Science and Technology. KACST for short, which is based in Riyadh, and they produce this calendar using modern astronomical calculations. Okay, that's CAST, located very close to King Saud University, which is just down the road. Okay, so this is the criteria for the Qura calendar. As you can see, it's changed over time. Prior to, in the 1950s, it's difficult to determine what criteria they used, but the information I managed to find that the criteria that they used to use at that time was that lunar altitude at sunset had to be greater than 9 degrees above the Makkah horizon. And as it turns out, if they stuck to that criteria, we probably wouldn't have had the problems we're having now, because that fits in very closely with the Hilal visibility maps. However, in 1395, they changed the criteria, and the criteria became if the moon's age at sunset was greater than 12 hours after the new moon, then the Islamic month started from the previous sunset. With this criteria, 50% of the cases, in 50% of the cases, the moon started before the astronomical new moon. And in many cases, moonset occurred before sunset. So it would be physically impossible to see the Hilal under those conditions. So anyway, they changed it in 1420, and the criteria was changed that if on the 29th of the lunar month, moonset is after sunset at Makkah, then the new lunar month begins. Otherwise, you complete 30 days. Now, with this criteria, about 85% of the cases of Hilal would not be visible to the naked eye. And in fact, in 1421, Rajab and 1422 Shaban, the month was started before conjunction. Therefore, they changed the criteria. They modified it slightly that the moon set had to be after sunset. So sunset and moon, because if the 29th of the lunar month, the geocentric conjunction occurs before sunset and the moon set is after sunset, then new lunar month begins. Otherwise, you complete 30 days. So this is the current criteria since 2002. And on this basis, 75% of the cases of halal sightings, based on this criteria, they would not be visible according to the visibility class. Yes?
Why did they change it? Do you have any information?
Which one? From there to there?
Yeah,
I don't know why they changed it from there to there. From there to there, they changed it because they obviously people becoming more acquainted with scientific data, right? And they realized, people must have pointed out to them, hold on, your Rajab and your Shaban actually started before conjunction. I mean, go back a decade or two, nobody knew what conjunction was. Now, I mean, a lot of people in this room, if not everybody, will know what moon conjunction is. Like I say, it's impossible. How can you start a month before? So they modified it, because what was happening, they started it. So what they did was to ensure that the sunset occurred before moonset. Because if the moon sets before sunset, that's obviously it's impossible to see.
Why didn't you go back to the original calculation? Like you said, that was closest to visibility.
It was. Well, I'll come on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the best people to answer is them. All right. Okay, however, having said all that, it doesn't cause a problem in Saudi Arabia. It works fine for Saudi Arabia. There's no problem there. Right? Because they use the Qura calendar for civil purposes only, administrative purposes. For the months of Ramadan, Shawwal, and Dhul Hijjah, Hilal sighting is announced by the High Judiciary Council of Saudi Arabia. That's the Majlis al-Qada al-Ala. And this is based on the testimony of witnesses. So for these Islamic months or religious months, it is actually based on actual halal sighting with a naked eye. They used to have 6 official halal sighting committees. They've got 9 now. Each one of these committees contains a scholar, a religious scholar. They have a local government official. They have a scientist, an astronomer, who is equipped with modern technological aids, telescopes, binoculars, and even more sophisticated equipment. However, even if none of these committees see the halal, and somebody comes along and say, I bear witness that I've seen the halal, then the Majlis al-Qada al-Ala will accept that testimony. So this is just to show you, as I was saying, that in Saudi Arabia, they use it for civil purposes. So if you go to work there, your contract will start according to the Hijri calendar. Yeah? 19th of May. And if you go to the airport, again, Hijri calendar. Yeah? Hijri calendar as well. So the other question is how many witnesses do you need to accept the fact that the halal is being sighted? So Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, and Imam Ahmad required a large number of witnesses if the sky was clear. If the sky is cloudy, let's leave that out. Let's stick to the simple stuff. So if the sky is clear, they needed a large number of witnesses. However, Imam Shafi accepted 1 witness to start Ramadan and 2 witnesses to end Ramadan. However, his ruling was based on his matala, his horizon area was limited to 48-mile boundary, which is the same as you have for a traveler. Some scholars have put that limit at 72 miles. Imam Yusuf, who was one of the prominent scholars of Imam Abu Hanifa, a jurist in his own right, he was a Qadi of Baghdad. He required 50 witnesses before he would accept that the halal had been sighted. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu would reject the testimony of a few witnesses if others could not see it from the same location. As I said, the Majlis al-Qada al-Ala will accept the testimony of a witness even if there is no sighting of any of the official halal sighting committees. People have done studies because the Saudi, this Umul calendar has caused so many problems. People have actually done studies on this issue. One of them is Professor Cordy. He did his study in 2003, and Ghani did his study in 2007. And they have shown that more than half of the Saudi halal announcements are too early and based on false sightings. If you wanted to read the paper, those two papers are quoted there. Right, the third issue. Is it permissible to use scientific data, astronomical data or not? And if it is permissible, then how reliable is it? There are some groups of scholars who reject the idea of using scientific data for this purpose. To give support to using scientific data, well, you know, spacecrafts have been to the moon and back since 1959. So there must be an element of precision to be able to do that. Man has landed on the moon, and as I said earlier in the previous presentation, the prediction of eclipses are very precise. One of the arguments used by the people who reject the use of scientific data, they say, well, the scientists disagree amongst themselves. Is this true? Well, yeah, it is true. But when the moon's not born, they all agree it's impossible to see. Right? There's no disagreement on that. And you'll find in every aspect of life, experts will disagree. I mean, doctors will disagree on when to treat hypertension. They'll all agree if the blood pressure is 250 over 150, that's hypertension, need to treat it. You know, but if it happens to be, you know, 158 over 88, yeah, there'll be some disagreement. They'll want to know what the age is of the patient, other evidence, this evidence. So, you know, experts do have an element of disagreement. And the scholars, who are all experts in the field of religious law, they disagree as well. So disagreement in itself should not lead you to reject using scientific data. Okay, I think that's just basically right. Yeah. So as I was saying, so for this, the scientists, so they will all agree that if you're in this area and the sky is clear, the moon can be sighted easily with the naked eye. They will all agree that if you live here, on that night, Monday 29th, 2011, it would be impossible to see the hilal. They'll all agree on that. Yeah, there'll be some disagreement where to draw this line. Where to draw this line. You know, there's different models. Where to draw the... So these are zones of uncertainty. There will be some disagreement on that, yes. Right, now this is just to demonstrate a little bit more about the Umul Candida. You will see that on this, on the Monday, 29th of August 2011, which was the 29th of Ramadan, it was impossible to see the halal anywhere in Asia or Europe or, you know, North America, Canada here. However, you'll see the Umul calendar started that the 1st of Shawwal was on the 30th of August, which would mean that the halal was visible on the 29th in this part of the world. This was obviously the pre-calculated one. But what happened, so you may remember there was a big debate going on. Now the Saudis have also got astronomers, right? And they go along, they agree with the astronomers in the rest of the world. Right? And on the 29th of August, none of the 9 official committees cited the hilal in Saudi Arabia. But some witnesses near Riyadh, and these witnesses who are known as early sighters, they live near Riyadh, and it tends to be the same people who have managed to sight the hilal rather early. So some witnesses in the area declared they saw the hilal. So announcement for Eid al-Fitr was made by the Saudi government to be on Tuesday, 30th of August, 2011. And as you know, in UK, some people followed that, some people didn't. And those people who said, well, it doesn't matter where it's seen, so they said, oh, it was seen in South America, even though it was sort of midnight here. They said, oh, well, it's seen there, so fine, we'll do it that next day. And there were some people in UK who did that. Right, now then, coming to the present time. So this is 2015 now. That you'll see that Eid, first of all, is according to Umm al-Qura calendar, is on the 17th of July, 2015. Yeah? And 10th of Dhul Hijjah, with the Eid al-Adha, is 23rd of September. So we'll see how that fits in with the current criteria. So if you have a look, this is the Hilal visibility map from the 16th, isn't it? 16th of June. So the moon's going to be born at 14:05 hours GMT, and it won't be visible to the naked eye just about anywhere in the world, unless you happen to be, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. You might be able to see it with the aid of an optical instrument. And on the 17th of June, it will become easily visible in large part of the inhabitable world. And so we're looking at the start of Ramadan now. So it will be visible on the 17th of June. According to the Umm al-Qura calendar, Ramadan will start on the 18th of June. So the Hilal visibility sign and what the Umm al-Qura calendar goes by, they agree on that. So inshallah, we should all start our Ramadan on the same day, on the 18th of June. And then this is just to show you how the Hilal spread in a parabola. So they would have started there. Yeah, by the next day, it should be visible in nearly all the inhabitable world. Right, then we move on towards the end of Ramadan. So 16th of July now, 29th of Ramadan. The moon will be born at 01:24 hours GMT, and it should be visible on that evening, on the 16th of July, Thursday, 16th of July 2015. It will be visible to the naked eye in the Polynesian Islands and parts of South America. Yeah? So if the conditions are perfect, people in South America would be able to see the hilal. Yeah. People who are in this area will be able to see it if the skies are clear easily with the naked eye. The Umm al-Qura calendar, according to the Umm al-Qura calendar, Shawwal is going to be on the 17th. So even though, according to the visibility site, it will be impossible to see the hilal anywhere in Asia or Europe, the Umm al-Qura calendar stated that it will be on the 17th. Because the Umm al-Qura calendar is based on the birth of the moon, actually, not on the visibility of the hilal. And then the next day, so people who, it's quite possible, see what will happen, the Saudi authorities will tell the people to go out on Thursday to look for the hilal. And human nature as it is a psychological factor. Somebody will say, oh yeah, I can see it. I mean, can you see as well? Maybe not, maybe I can convince you. And then they'll go and give their testimony. And, it will be declared. Shawwal will be declared on the 7th of July. Even though the 9 official committees, none of them will be able to, those are very experienced people in the committee. And there's 3 or 4 of them. So even one sees it, there's, the other guys are not going to be convinced by, they say, no, I'm going to make sure I can see it. But even if none of the committee see it, and they won't see it, because these maps are being tested again and again, and they won't see it, unless it's some kind of miracle. Because, these are based on the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These maps have been designed by the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the knowledge that He's given us. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to change His laws overnight. He's given us, so they won't be able to see it based on these. So even if none of the committees see it, and somebody on the 16th of July, when people go, there's an expectation to see it, and there's also an expectation to start Ramadan and also to end Ramadan. Somebody says it. So people who follow Saudi Hilal announcements will do their Eid on the 17th. But those who follow use scientific data, even if somebody says they've seen it, they'll reject it. Yeah, remember the third group? They go by naked eye sighting, but they use scientific data to negate any false sightings. So they will consider this to be a false sighting. Unless the numbers are so overwhelming that would be impossible for that number to collude together to try and give a false sighting when there isn't one. And also, if somebody does see it in Saudi Arabia, then we've got to see if people in Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, if they see it or not. They should be able to see it. So you can go on the internet and get all this information. So if you go on to the HMN Nautical Almanic office, you can get all this data for yourselves. And it shows you that on July the 16th, it tells you when the moon is born. Yeah. And it will tell you the age of the moon, 14. So I've done this for Makkah, obviously. Yeah. It will be 14 hours, 42 minutes. It will tell you what time the moon sets. It will tell you what time the sun sets. And you can see that the lighter time there is insufficient. And it will tell you F means that it's impossible to see it. Yeah? We see people who have done their timetables already. So these are two masjids from my town. Some of them have indicated that, what's this? July, yeah. Shawwal will be on Friday. Some of them indicated it will be on Saturday. And Dhul Hijjah, again, you'll find same thing happening. On Sunday, 13th of September 2015, that's when the moon's going to be born. It will be visible if you're somewhere in the Polynesian Islands or in, on a boat in the Pacific Ocean. But the Qura calendar states that Dhul Hijjah will start on the 14th. Yeah? And if people will go out on the 29th of Dhul al-Qada, and if somebody says they've seen it, then the Majlis al-Qada al-Allah will announce next day's start of Dhul Hijjah. But the people who use the scientific data will reject any testament because it defies science. So it's quite likely we'll probably have 2 start dates for Dhul Hijjah and hence 2 dates for Eid al-Adha. Now, need to say a little bit about Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. It's not the day after Yawm al-Arafah. If you wish to fast, you should fast on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah as per your local date. Eid al-Adha was established in the 2nd year of Anno Hijri in Medina, whereas Hajj was made obligatory several years after, in the 9th of Anno Hijri. Because some people say, as far as Dhul Hijjah goes, we should follow Saudi Arabia. But there's, again, the logic is not there. And when the Prophet was in Medina, he did not try to synchronize the date of 10th Dhul Hijjah with that in Makkah. Even though there was 10 days to send a rider there to find out when they saw the halal, and then come back to Medina and say, oh, this is when the 10th of Dhul Hijjah is. He never did that. And also the Hujjaj don't actually pray Eid al-Adha. So in summary, the geographical location of the UK means it is necessary for Muslims in the UK to follow the Hilal sightings of other countries during some months. There is no single central governing body, i.e. no leader in the UK to make decisions on this matter. There are fiqh differences. In practical terms, all groups are effectively using scientific data, calculations in some way or other. Some are using predicted birth of the moon data as their basis. Others are using Hilal visibility curves. The countries that we follow, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, South Africa, there's definitely an element of politics and human nature that comes into this. So the questions arise, what criteria should we use to start the month of Ramadan and to end the month of Ramadan? Should scientific data be used? Is the word of a Muslim enough, or do we need supporting evidence?